Can you tell us what an Indian agent was?
So the Indian agent was the guy that was kind of like the police for the government of Canada. Eventually, in 1867, July 1st, 1867, you ever hear that? The really important date in Canada's history? Canada Day. Canada became a country. So one of the ways that they formalized that was that they came up with this law. And the law is called the British North American Act, the British North America Act. And it's kind of like the foundation for Canada. So every clause within Canada's British North America Act outlines how Canada is going to operate, how they're going to do things, the areas that they're going to focus on. It's basically a division of powers between the federal government and the provincial government. So within the listing, there's number 1, we'll do this. Number 1.1, we'll do this. Number 1.2, we'll do this. Number 2, we'll do this. Number 2.1, we'll do this. 2.2, 2.3. So they outline and list all of these things that each one's going to do. So under the responsibility of Canada, way down under 91, number 91.24, so the 91st issue, the 24th paragraph, is a reference to Native people. And in there it says, I hereby declare as, anybody know the name of Canada's first Prime Minister? Anybody? Sir John A. Macdonald, yeah. So he said, I'm going to look after Indians and lands reserved for Indians. And we said, what? What? How can you look after us? You don't control us. If anything, we will look after you. It's our land, our resources. That was 9124. And then what Sir John A. basically said not long after that, I'm taking this land, and you are now going to be looked after by me, and I'm going to make decisions in your best interest. I'm going to be your fiduciary. I'm going to look after you. I'll make your decisions. So he basically hired a bunch of Indian agents and said, you guys go out and you protect our interests, and you put those Native people on reserves, you squander them, you penalize them, you do this to them. So it was kind of like the police for the government of Canada at the time to get rid of the Indians, to kind of integrate them, to amalgamate them. So the Indian agents were actually in place, and they're still in place today. The Indian agent still actually makes the major decisions for First Nations. So as an example, we decide that we're going to elect me to be the chief, and you're going to be the counselor, or you're going to be the chief, and you're going to be the counselor, you're going to be the counselor, you're going to be a counselor in our government. We do up a letter, we saying, oh, by the way, Indian agent, we just had an election in our community, and we decided so-and-so is going to be the chief, and here's our council. And we'll give that to the Indian agent, and he actually has to put a stamp of approval on it and say, okay, I'll let them be your chief, and I'll let them be your council. And if he doesn't do that, we don't have a government. That's kind of archaic that we have. That's the kind of archaic government we still have today. It's still illegal for an Indian to own land in Canada. We cannot own land. You as John Doe can own land, but if the band wants to own land, if we as a collective want to own land, we can't own land. According to Indian Affairs, all our land is owned by Canada, and it's held by Canada, like the Sir John A. Macdonald mentality. I'll own it for you, and I'll make decisions about it, and I'll manage it for you, but you can't own it. So when you say it's reserved, it's actually land reserved for Indians held in trust by the government of Canada. That's what a reserve is. It's not Indian land, it's lands that are held in trust by the federal government for the benefit of the Indians. That's what a reserve is. So Indian agents enforce all of these archaic laws. And I just met with an Indian agent last week about a number of things, trying to get out of the Indian Act and how we're going to do that, and how we can empower our people to reclaim what we reserved as our jurisdiction. Because a lot of people think that we don't have a lot of rights, but we still have a lot, and Canada's afraid that we're going to wake up and we're going to do more about what we still have.